Is it possible for a man to reassemble his life like a million-piece jigsaw in the temptation of the haze of sex, drugs and some cracking 90s rock and roll? I went to the Irish premiere of A Million Little Pieces to find out.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because you're my brother, and you're breaking Mom and Dad's hearts.
This is a controversial film, which is based on the equally controversial book,
Let's take a walk.
which received the ultimate stamp of approval and guarantee of success when it was included on Oprah Winfrey's book club, which pretty much guarantees any book bestseller status and ensured success. However, in a dramatic moment of controversy, Oprah Winfrey withdrew the book from her book club. Originally, the book was presented as an autobiography, a true story about the author's grappling with addiction and his journey through rehabilitation. However, it transpired that, certainly was alleged, that the author had lifted some aspects of the story from another book, so thus leading to its expulsion from the much coveted Oprah Winfrey's book club and enduring controversy ever since. The film itself doesn't pretend to be as an original either. Certainly Ben is Back was a film that I reviewed for this channel earlier this year, which covers more or less the same theme of addiction. Now in the case of Ben is Back, it was addiction to prescription pills, whereas this is back to a more traditional model of addiction, which is addiction to street drugs.
If you were to start using again, it's more than likely that you would go into cardiac arrest immediately.
The film attempts to shock right from the start in the opening scene, and herein I think lies the problem, and I suspect that the acting is a little bit overblown.
Where am I going?
Minneapolis, sir.
Vodka or whatever you have.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to give you any alcohol.
Says who?
The doctor that carried you onto the plane.
Now, I've never taken drugs and I never intend to, but somehow I suspect that the main actor's reaction when he's on drugs and equally when he's going through rehabilitation off drugs is way overplayed and too overdramatic. The reason for this, I suspect, is that real drug taking is so uninteresting, so boring, so mind-numbingly boring and uninteresting and crushingly miserable and so unglamorous that the director felt the need to fall into the trap of glamorizing it, and that is regrettable here. I wonder, would any real addicts recognize the behavior of the addict here? I would suspect that far from that overacting, very dramatic, crazy shamanic dance routine that he's doing at the start, that in reality the drug addict would be sprawled out, mostly unconscious, and that, I suspect, wouldn't make great film.
Truth is, I don't need to be here. I'm not like these other people.
We're all the same in here. We gotta look out for one another.
This film covers a similar theme to Ben is Back, which I covered and reviewed on this channel a couple of months ago. And it's a theme which is a very worthy one, because it's tackling an issue which is certainly having a cancerous effect on modern society. It's quite evident that that effect is increasing and becoming more corrosive all the time. I just wonder if the film could have handled it a little bit more sensitively and perhaps resisted falling into the glamorization on the drug side, and perhaps a little bit of the over-dramatization of the rehabilitation.
I've never seen this degree of degradation in someone so young.
Someday a director will be brave enough to show the crushing dullness of the reality of drug abuse and alcoholism, but sadly you won't find it in this film here. Billy Bob Thornton and Juliette Lewis play unusual characters in this film, and it's hard to see where their characters fit in, and I wonder were they slotted into the film purely for the name rather than the function of the character. Juliette Lewis so often plays the dysfunctional character that it's quite difficult to accept her as the counsellor and psychotherapist in this role. She seems so typecast in a kind of an opposite role in most films.
As soon as you realize that there is no choice, there's a choice.
I'm not an addict. I'm not an addict.
Billy Bob Thornton's role is interesting, but not compelling by any means. He plays that stereotypical person who screams at our main character, the guy, "Have you got any guts?"
You don't have the balls to face it. That's what I think. So you do have life left in you. You can win this thing.
Can't.
Yeah, you can.
I've never been to rehab, but somehow I'd imagine it's a lot less interesting than that. The woman that he meets in rehab is probably the best played character here and probably the most interesting, and we certainly engage with her probably more than the main protagonist, which is a difficulty with this film.
You don't have to do this alone.
No, we could get thrown out for doing this.
A second of freedom is worth more than a lifetime of bondage.
Now, the rules of the rehab state that there can't be any interaction between the opposite sex, which appears a bit strange, especially seeing as, while they're obviously not allowed to use drugs, everybody in the rehab seems to chain smoke 24 hours a day, which is a little bit odd.
How you doing?
Some days I feel okay, others I just want to crawl up in a dark hole and die.
I'm good. You're doing okay then.
So just as our main protagonist's reaction when on drugs is quite overplayed and a bit overdramatic, likewise with his experience in rehab, boiling with anger, tearing things apart, wrecking his room.
You got two choices. You can let it kill you, or you can let it go and move on.
He gets the book of the 12 steps of alcoholism and shoves it down the toilet, throws it out the window, stamps on it, tears it out, and somehow I think at some stage you just feel, would he just cop on?
Make peace with yourself. You're a worthwhile human being, James. You got a lot to give people.
This film received a reasonably positive response at its Irish premiere, though I don't suspect that it'll set the world alight. It appears it's going to appear on general release in Irish cinemas in about 3 weeks.
God damn, that'll make a gorilla shit the treehouse.
I'm glad I could be of service.